Welcome to Up Close, Meet the Poet Behind the Verse. I am your host, River Maria Erke, and here to help me pull this evening off is Bridget Pharisee, a local artist and freedom fighter, filling in for Julie Martin.
Hi, everyone.
Here at Up Close, we feature one poet a season. Our goal is to introduce you to the person behind the poems. Tonight, we are showcasing a Minneapolis poet and longstanding Twin Cities curator of literary events, Paula Cisewski. But first, I have to take care of some housekeeping items. I need to remind our audience to remain muted during the duration of the show. We will have a giveaway today, but details later. I have to give a shout out to our sponsors, the Cracked Walnut and the League of Minnesota Poets, and remind us all we're being recorded for a future video on YouTube. And if you visit our channel at UpClosePoets, one word, please subscribe. We're trying to get to 50. So with that, sit back and let me introduce you to our autumn Up Close poet, Paula Cisewski. Paula is a mother, poet, teacher, artist, and printmaker who lives in Minneapolis with her boyfriend, Terry. She was born in Bemidji, the youngest of 4 by a mile. Her closest sibling was 7 years older. Paula spent elementary school near the Twin Cities and junior high through high school in Fargo, North Dakota. Her dad was a traveling salesman. She graduated in '86 and made her way to Minneapolis, where she spent many a night at First Avenue. Paula had her son, Anton, in '89. While raising him, she earned her BA from St. Catherine's University in '98 and her MFA from Vermont College of Fine Arts in 2003. Today, Paula has been teaching writing for 2 decades, privately and academically. She has published 6 full-length poetry books and several chapbooks. Her work has appeared in numerous literary journals, including Hanging Loose and 32 Poems. Paula has been awarded fellowships and residencies from organizations including the Jerome Foundation and the Minnesota State Arts Board, to name a few. Her poems have been nominated 3 times for a Pushcart Prize and the Best of the Net. Without further ado, let's welcome Paula Cisewski. Good evening, Paula.
Hello, River. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone.
Well, you grew up in the 80s and found yourself drawn to 80s punk. Can you share with us how the music affected you in 6th grade?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was just shortly after moving to the new city, and I remember like standing in my bedroom, and this song came on the radio that I had never heard anything like it, and I was just like transported. And I don't even know if it's punk rock, but it was Jim Carroll's People Who Died, and I was like, that is the energy I need. And
Oh, so funny.
So I think, yeah.
Well, and
I think I interrupted you twice. Go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I was going to say in '86, you graduated from high school, a punk rocker in Fargo, North Dakota. Yeah. Can we hear the story of how you moved to Minneapolis?
It was clumsy, but it was funny, I think, well, in retrospect, maybe. Yeah. A group of punks piled in a car to drive down for a Lou Reed concert. And it's like difficult, I think, to even remember that this is before cell phones, and I was broke, so it's only like a 4-hour trip really to get back home. But the person who owned the car broke down, and we all kind of parted ways, and the concert was sold out, and Um, I stayed with a couple friends and they said, we need a roommate. Why don't you just stay? And I had a change of clothes and a notebook with me and I stayed. Yeah, that's it. I wasn't the type of teenager who had a lot going on for me. I had some good friends, but I did not have a lot of like future prospects where I was. So I honestly thought it might have been the only way that I moved at that point in my life.
Um, I just, as being a an ex punk rocker myself, I couldn't imagine of being. I thought being in Duluth was harsh, hard. North Dakota would be a bit different. Um, so
Yeah, it felt like it then. It really did. But I think about there were opportunities for kids. There really were. Um, but it did feel small and at the time they're both so different now, right? They both feel
yeah,
like really different communities now. Yeah.
oh yeah, much bigger communities.
Hmm.
So you always wrote poetry and kept a journal. And when you were young, you enjoyed writing ghost stories. And then in your teens, you described your writing as bad lyrics in a band that you never could quite pull together, but they were something like poems. Then in your
Hmm.
early 20s, your life dramatically changed with motherhood and the death of your son's father when you were still pregnant. How did your writings change?
Um, yeah, I found myself compelled to write in a different way and to seek out um poets and um and just more. I just read more deeply and I think it was like nap time, It was like
Every time I was napped.
anytime the baby went down for a nap, I found myself at my typewriter. Um, and I didn't come from a family who kind of valued college education, or it didn't seem like a path that I was going to take until that point. I was actually a beauty school dropout by that point. But I think writing um, was the way that I found my way to becoming a non-traditional college student.
And you were totally alluded into the next question, where this at that same point is when you started reevaluating your life and decided to go back to school.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So then in 92 to 93, you graduated, around 92, 93, you graduated from the Minneapolis school where you currently teach, right?
yeah.
And you and
Minneapolis
your,
College. Yeah.
yeah, okay. And you and your son Anton moved to St. Paul, where you lived at the Frogtown Family Artist.
Frogtown Family Lofts. Yep. With an
And
artist.
you decided to go back to school at St. Catherine's and started working at the Artist Quarter.
Mm.
Can we hear a poem that kind of represents your life at this point? Do you have any?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You know, I chose to go to St. Kate's because there's a author, Janice Agee, who taught there. And the semester that I went, she got a job elsewhere. So I never got to work with her. And then the semester that I graduated, she came back to the college.
Oh gosh. Have you ever
So
gone to talk to her and say,
I actually was able to audit a class with her, and it was wonderful because I thought I was a fiction writer. And I'm a terrible fiction writer. All of my fictional characters were just like me with different hair. And I realized I was a poet in the time that she was away, and she's a multi-genre author, so I got to work with her when
cool,
I considered myself a poet instead of a terrible
instead of a
fiction.
possible fiction writer?
Yeah. So this I picked a poem. Um Actually, it's called Mother's Day 14, but so it might be a little later than that time frame, but um it was the closest I could do. Um Mother's Day number 14, 13, baker's dozen, 20, score, hundred, century, centenary, thousand, million, billion, trillion, zero. See insubstantiality from Roget's thesaurus under numeration. Big boy on a little boy's bike. Nothing is enlisted in this park but pigeons. Early spring has erupted brown, and we wade through your difference. Your head, ahead, has won a race to a line in the air. Above me, above news and scraps on the wind. How did you discover this plan for increase? I wanted us to remain forever, no older. I'd be a white First Communion dress like a leaf on a tree in a box labeled last October, but your protector. As a container for time, I am imperfect, easily obliterated. This is a common flaw. Yet fresh colors and we ensue. One Mississippi, two Mississippi. To sing Hushabye was beautiful, is beautiful, is not now required.
Which book was that in?
That's in Upon Arrival. This is my
Oh, okay.
first book. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, that made me think of your son is, but he's 39 now, right? Or no, 35.
35.
35.
Yeah.
I remember because he's 10 years older than my daughter.
Yeah.
The way we remember things.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I still, a lot of the way that I track time is by his age. So what age was he?
yep, yep. When did that happen? Oh, he was 4.
Mhm.
So today you've been teaching now for 20 years, primarily adults, academia and creative writing. What is your favorite part of teaching?
I do love teaching creative writing. I often teach a lot of composition and research writing. Um, I really love um, working in a community college, and because I do work with a lot of like first generation college students, non-traditional college students, and um, I I I love seeing people feel invited, like feel welcome, feel to become themselves, their best selves, and college is one way to do that, right? Not the only way. But I love watching like a mind light up, or I love seeing a student write something that transforms their idea of what they can do and make.
Yeah,
It's incredible. Yeah.
that's beautiful. Um, well, and so you've published 6 full-length poetry books, along with
My
some.
sixth will be out next spring. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the 6th one will be out next spring.
Yeah.
And several chapbooks. Your first book you read that one poem from was published in 2006, Upon Arrival. Can you tell us a little bit, a morsel about it, and share can we hear another poem from it, perhaps?
Sure, sure. Um, it so I graduated, I got an MFA in 2005. And so Upon Arrival really is like a collection of the best poems that I wrote before grad school, and like the work that I was doing in graduate school. So I was maybe a non-traditional age, but that's a pretty um, not surprising way for a first book to come out. But um, a person who also went to Vermont College started Black Ocean and reached out to me
Oh,
when I was doing that thing where I was sending my first manuscript out to contests all over the place.
yeah.
Jonica Stuckey started Black Ocean with Carrie Olivia Adams, and they said, when you're done sending the book out, we would happily publish it as our first full-length collection if it doesn't get taken elsewhere. And it was just beyond fortune. It was really a beautiful thing.
And now they've grown into a bigger press.
Yeah, they are almost 20 years old. Yeah. So they've been publishing wonderful work for almost 2 decades.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Are they out of the cities?
They're they're out of Boston
Oh,
and Chicago. Yeah.
cool. Well, this is a point. Oh, yeah, you got to read a poem for us.
I just remembered you asked me. Let's see. This okay. This feels like maybe a little longer poem, but I used to really have a lot of fun reading this poem. Um, and I read it kind of quickly. So
Okay.
the motto for anyone who falls into a black hole must be think imaginary. Stephen Hawking said that. A motto for when everything's a long way off, like the stars we won't be able to see tonight, or eternity consisting entirely of nows, is how I think Dickinson said it. Chugga chugga, another Wednesday, is how I say it. Seems like words are more compressed than they used to be, like snow, a large task broken down by the sky, all the nows falling gently around us. The days have so many heartbeats inside, chugga chugga, motoring them along, or as in 100 Years of Solitude, the whole town of Macondo living the same day over and over again. It has been winter here for so long, and there are limits to how far I can retreat into my home or my Wednesday, the quiet little nows melting on my cheek. I quote, make nothing happen. I survive in the valley of my saying, unquote, out in I survive. Oops, I said that already. Plus, I read a lot, which reminds me once in the long DMV line, I had a paperback version of Crime and Punishment in my coat pocket. And this guy behind me noticed and actually described a passage where Svidrigailov describes Raskolnikov's solitary garret as a coffin. And I wanted to say, yes, I loved that part, but I couldn't. I wasn't to that part. I don't remember later ever getting to that part. Did we read different books with the same dust jackets? I felt then as if for my whole life I'd known nothing but Wednesday. It seems like if we're going to have this much more night, we should do something more beautiful with it than drive to yet another party where the talk will drink its way from feta to fate, who authored us so predictably. Are these all the same heartbeats repeating? It can't be. The snow is piled up higher than ever. Two things I do understand about science are gravity and evaporation. Think about moisture rising and what it's absorbed. Train whistle, breath of someone reading aloud, alone. The jingle from the postman's transistor radio. Think how, without the soft falling of these things, we'd never see the stars again.
Wow. What was the name of that one again?
Oh my gosh. The motto for anyone who falls into a black hole must be think imaginary, which really is a Stephen Hawking quote.
Well, that book is one of the books you're going to give away.
It is.
And so everybody that's here, right to that point where she's going to give two books away today. One of them is The Upon Arrival, and the next one we're going to talk about. So you have one guess you can put in the chat between 1 and 50, and whoever comes closest without going over wins. So I did forget one thing that I'll have to do next time you read a poem. But so let's see here. Here's the next book you're going to do is actually the last book you published, which was published this year, and it's Ceremonies for No Repair. Can we get a poem from there?
Absolutely. I know what this looks like. There are many poems in this book called The Ghost of Human Contact, and this is one of them. Stationed across a quarantine, one solitary night after another, light years between each star, to our eyes, a constellation implies a whole. One friend said as the group planned our next Zoom meeting, my asshole calendar still asks for the location of events. After months of sheltering, I wrote cold mirages. I had no idea outside of winter. Every room of the house, a kind of altar I roamed through, votives on the sills, lit overtures. See you soon, we text each other. Yes, scare quotes, smiley face emoji, heart, heart, heart. All year I will want to be more or what, but often I'll just sulk away polar vortex nights in front of HBO Max in a new relationship with my own resistance, developing a twitch in my upper lip. The whole world, a single-minded wish I hadn't previously thought to notice. To be more everything. Remember possible desire, falling, ringless. Remember two separate, equally stupid dreams about romantic longing, grief and grief and grief, then dinner. Early on, it was suggested we hug a tree. We were told, no, you're not alone, feeling alone. Loud music as rice boils, Big Joni in the kitchen, dance away the invisible feelings. In the dreams, I was either searching for something or hiding from something, unclear. Like waking life, it could have been a both and situation. In winter, a body waits like any seed in a pouch, equal measure, neither resurrection nor burial, plumule of a future encased in a shell.
Well, that book actually is based off of the pandemic, a time your life drastically changed again. But right before the pandemic, your husband of 11 years left. Then you got COVID. And then, I don't know, then your mom dies. Add to now, if that wasn't all hard enough, the world gets locked down. And you're living alone with your cat and stuck alone. You found means to be creative with no words you found a means to be creative when no words would come. You found printmaking. Please explain.
Sure. Um, yeah, and the murder of George Floyd and the uprising, like it was a terrible, terrible time for everyone.
It was.
Um, I language was not something that came easily to me at that time. Um, and I really am so grateful to the Minnesota Center for Book Arts for figuring out how to pivot online. I took um, a class as often as I could, fit it in. And it really just meant so much I just had to keep my hands busy. I started drawing more than I had in years, and I took bookmaking classes. There was a time during the really, really kind of difficult time. I actually have some show and tell. I took like a zine making class, so there was a 2 week period where I just made I made a zine every day when I was like, I just wanted these little books. They're called Honeymoon for One. It's supposed to be traveling for a wedding anniversary, and it wound up my mom passed on what was meant to be the wedding anniversary that day. And I couldn't write poems, but I could like document and draw pictures. And so I did a lot of that. Um, I have screen printing set up in my basement now. And over time, I've been accumulating things. I even have a baby Vandercook proof press, and I'm still learning how to use that as well. Many of the comics and small books and images wound up in this book, Ceremonies for No Repair. Like you can see, it's more. Oh, you can see my post-its too, but it's much more full of images than anything else I've ever published. And I think it helped me find my way back to language, just to continue to make insight in like a visual language.
Yeah. You still were getting that creative part of you moving, juices running. Well, let's go back to 94, way back in time.
Okay.
That's like, gosh, we're at 20. God, man, I can't believe how It's 2024 right now. So when you were working, and you were working at the artist quarter,
Hmm.
uh, I just, when I found this out, I was just so delighted me. But you started that open mic for poetry and music.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. It went on for so long.
I
I,
looked it up. It went
yeah,
on for you did it from 94 to 2000, and it went all the way up for another 14 years. It stopped at 2014.
that's amazing. That's
So it
pretty
went
cool.
on for, yeah, it went on
Yeah.
for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty
I
amazing.
love that.
But that was quite, you had, it was a music, poetry, and when I was there, there was also comics. Did you have
Mm-hmm.
comics too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you started with the jazz band. Is that how it,
Um,
the
not
jazz
necessarily
quartet?
in the open mic. Like the Kenny Horst who owned the artist quarter really took a chance on the open mic. And to make it feasible at first, I was the bartender, the server, and the host, and I was like running back and forth. Um, and eventually it became like standing room only. Sometimes it became a very popular night.
Oh yeah, when I was
Um,
there, it was very busy.
yeah, yeah. Um, and then my friend, the poet Fred Schmaltz, who doesn't live in the cities anymore, he lives in Chicago, but he and I started a quarterly series called St. Paul Calls. So it would be like a jazz trio and then four authors who we invited to read. And that was in addition to the open mic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there was one night after, well, you stopped being a host in 2000. But one night when you attended later on the open mic, you had a very humbling moment. Could you share that story with us?
Yeah. I think I was feeling just so proud that something that I started like lived on and had its own life, and just like without me and sustained itself. And I knew that it just wasn't mine anymore, right? But I was
Mhm.
chit-chatting with someone who was a regular there, and as we were talking, I said, I started this open mic. And the person said, no, you didn't. And just like, I don't know. It was a really interesting moment of facing my own ego. I'm like, does it matter to me because it's true, or does it matter to me because I want credit? Like um, probably a little of both. But yeah, but it had been sustained, yeah, for like a decade and a half with
Yeah, it went on.
several other hosts, and it didn't really matter who started it at that point, but I did. So
But yeah, I would have felt the same way. When I went there, everybody that went on stage was put on a YouTube channel.
that's great. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's still there though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's great if you, I mean, well, I guess it depends
It never goes
on the
away.
sobriety level, maybe.
Um, but yeah, they're neat to look at. Uh,
I don't even know if
so
YouTube existed when yeah.
oh gosh, I don't think it did back then, those days. So
Mm.
you grew up in North Dakota, and your family was not much for traveling,
We
even though
were
your
just
dad,
really working class. Yeah. We went to the
you would go to,
UP.
yeah, you go visit your grandparents, and then I mean, I remember you telling me you went to Grand Forks once, and that's a big city in North Dakota. So
Yeah, there's
I
no
stayed
farther.
home pretty much. But as an adult, it's a different story for you. You love traveling.
Yeah.
And one of your favorite adventures you went on that you told me about. Can you tell us?
Yeah. My son was a chef, and part of his job was to open restaurants, and so he was traveling quite a bit with this job, and he was in England, and I got to a couple summers ago, so it was huge, like going to London after the pandemic. I mean, not that the
Mhm.
pandemic's over, but it was the first time I was on a plane for a few years, and definitely that long of a flight. But yeah, I got to spend like a little over a week in London with my son and do all the touristy stuff and check out some neighborhoods that were a little less touristy. We went out to Stonehenge one day.
That's where that picture on your event is.
Yeah, that's my son and me. It's Stonehenge. Yeah. That had always been a, bucket list thing to do. And we chose I chose a tour for us that was um
Uh-oh.
through, oh, I guess I can't remember the service, but it was either in the morning or at sunset, and it was just our group at the time, so there were really like 15 of us there, and you weren't allowed to touch the stones, but you could get within an inch of the stone. You could go anywhere you wanted in the circle, and I sat and tried to write a poem in the middle of Stonehenge.
um, and next month or this month, you're going to that Kingstone down that.
Yeah, you told me about that. Yeah, we're gonna
That's
take a
pretty
look.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I had never heard of it until you mentioned it, and I'm very excited because they have I looked at the website, right? They have kind of a um remake of Stonehenge, and they also have labyrinths, I love labyrinths so much, and it looks incredible.
And they have I think on the summer solstice, through a circle window, the sun will come through it when it rises, go through and hit some spot.
Oh, cool.
I know. I've always thought it'd be really cool to camp down there on that day. But yeah, I mean, hopefully you get a tour with her. We did, and she's a bit of a talker, but she's got stories, man.
Oh, okay, great. I wouldn't even think of it, a
Yes.
guided tour, but of course, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was. I went with my art group. We did it as uh our our last field trip of the year, a couple years ago. Um, so let's look at a couple other of your books. In 2016, The Quitter was a Dioid, I don't know, book prize winner, and Ghost Fargo, published in 2008, won the Night Boat Poetry Prize. Can you give us a brief look at these and pick like a poem from one of them?
Sure. Yeah. Oh boy, I just don't know how I picked so many poems from the newer book. I'm sorry that you're just watching me. There are a lot of odes in Ghost Fargo. So, ode to falling below the radar of the gods. An ocean is too much. I hardly like the one at the beach. I don't want to be a ripple or even a tongue twist. I want to stay home. I read a lot of books about eternity for which I wish I had more time. I have to learn redundantly that none of this is true. But I like rituals. It's why I smoke. I like resolutions. It's why I quit. I like patterns and repetition and winning and punishment. I guess I must. I could do this forever. When the god Janus lights up, he must inhale with one mouth and exhale with the other. A double habit hidden beneath his stale beards. Gods are so cool. Their grand scale of glut and delay, where we all separately stow ourselves away in their cargo of memories in case they bother to remember anything while enjoying their view from on high.
That was from Ghost Fargo.
Mm-hmm.
Are a lot of those from kind of related to your growing up? Is that how the name comes?
There is a little bit. There's a little bit of adolescence I'm working out in that book. Yeah, but also I just love the name Fargo. I feel like everyone has an idea of what it is in their head. Um, there there was a time when I was working on this book where it was really loosely based on like purgatory, like Dante's Purgatory. And it's not that that town is purgatory, but that time in my life and my adolescence for me was kind of a purgatory. And there's something just so resonant and like um lamenting about the word Fargo. It's just so that's why it's the title. There's
Got
yeah.
What about the book Quitter?
Quitter has a lot of labyrinths in it, and it has a lot
Ah,
of Chopin etudes in it. Um, mhm. And it was from a time in my life where I needed to make a pretty big change in a number of fronts. And I
is that kind of
wanted to celebrate. I like there's, it's a word that has a lot of negative connotations, but I'm
oh
a
yeah,
queer person. So, um,
it's kind of like the word lonely. Everyone always thinks it's just negative,
oh sure.
you
Yeah.
know? Yeah,
Hmm.
it's kind of how
Yeah.
you look at it. Well, over the years, you have started many open mics. And we could probably just talk about that all on its own,
Mm.
actually. So I decided that there's so much for us to talk about that either we can do that another time but I'd like to hear about the one you're currently
Yeah.
currently curating.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the artist quarter open mic was the only open mic, but the rest were kind of quarterly or monthly series, where I would just invite a few people to read, and sometimes there was a open mic element. This one there is not, but the amazing experimental composer and pianist Maura Bosch. Um, a mutual friend of ours approached me and asked if I would be interested in collaborating with her. And so it's at Metronome Brewery, and the next one is in December. Um, and it's I get to curate the poetry, and it's usually
Mhm.
two poets and then several experimental musicians.
Cool.
And everyone does two sets. In the first set, the poets read their work alone, unaccompanied, and in the second set, they collaborate with a musician.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. And I always like to see it, arts collaborating.
yeah, me too. And sometimes there's really awesome multimedia work as well. It's I am always surprised. I'm always surprised. Yeah.
That's cool. And it's quarterly, so your next one's in December.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
it is. I believe it's the second Sunday. I should have the date in at the top of my head, but which is the Waves. You can find the Waves. We have a YouTube station too
oh,
that
you
features a lot of the previous performers.
okay? Cool. I'll have to look that up. Um, so in 2014, you published. We're gonna get to some more books. A lot of books. You published the Threatened Everything, and that is a Burnside Review Press Book Prize selected finalist.
Hmm.
Um, that is the most interesting title. Where does that title come from?
It threatened everything.
Yeah.
Um, I think it comes from the way many of us feel just bombarded by crises on every front, ecological. There was definitely so. Oh my gosh, I'm backtracking a little bit. So this was accepted for publication in 2014, but it actually came out in 2017.
Oh yeah.
These two both did oddly, even though they were accepted at very different times.
Thought
I think
about
it
that.
made me seem more prolific than I am. Not a, um, but yeah, there was Trump running for office at some of the time of this writing.
Mhm.
You know, so it deals with, I think, a lot of uh,
That,
anxiety that has built since then.
that makes now the title makes a lot more sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you've got their next book that'll be out, and you said in the spring, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the Becoming Game,
Yeah.
or just Becoming Game, um,
Not the Becoming Game. Yeah, there's a
just Becoming Game. Yeah. Can you briefly tell us what's that one about?
that one I started kind of right when this one ends, right? So I didn't really know how to be a poet right away. Once after the election. And so in 2016, 17, I started a process where, or process, just a habit. Like once a month, I would have a friend over for tea, and I would give them a tarot reading. And then I would spend the next week thinking about the tarot reading and thinking about the news that kind of filtered in. And then I would draft them a poem as a gift. Um,
Oh.
and sometimes there are readings for myself, and sometimes there's a little bit of ekphrastic, like poems in,
Mhm.
in conversation with art, as well, but they're very tarot infused as well. So that's how this book that's coming out came to be. And I've worked on it over the years, but it has been around for a while. So, but I wrote the most recent tarot poem, um, maybe this January or February.
Cool. And then you're working. You've been working out for a long time on a book where you got labyrinths.
Yeah, yeah.
See
I read
someday.
for what's that?
That we'll see someday.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. It's a story of a brother I lost. We lost when I was a teenager, and it has a lot to do with judgment and prison and expectation and yeah, punishment and um, love. Yeah, and I had to put it down for a while. Some of the I just had to put it down for a while, but
I,
I'm hoping that it seems like it's time to pick it back up now.
I can relate to that sometimes. Some of those, the best stuff that we can cover are the hardest to deal with. And some points it just becomes too much. And then you
Yeah.
come back and it's like new eyes. It's, I think, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, let's see here. We do you have poems, a little poem, a little group of poems to read.
Sure thing. Yeah, I'd love to.
Um, and yeah, we got like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. This one I read. Oh, I was going to say, some of the poems, there's prose and images in here, and some, when I found language, sometimes they just didn't fit correctly on the page. That's why I was holding the book sideways.
Oh, gotcha.
Like my lines didn't feel like being short at all the time. So there's a crown of sonnets in this book for my mom, which is like 15 interlocking sonnets. They don't follow the rules exactly, but they follow that rule. So I maybe will read one or two of those. Mother Corona. A name is a plucked bloom that outlives you. Hers, Arlene, mother, other, never, forgotten exactly, never secret, not resting unsaid through the hurt hours while her cancer's thriving, even as racists in a virus swarm. The world uncouples itself screen by screen, then redoubles pod by pod our bubbles. I over mother, under daughter, troubling myself, my loved ones asynchronously. Losses garland the budding solitudes, one's universe, some hollow stem, some scatter seed names. Can I chain together the looped wishes like that thing kids chant over dandelions? Mother Corona, too. That thing kids chant over dandelions is Mama had a baby and her head popped off. Which head? Which her? Or some kid would put a fat bloom beneath your chin, and if the flesh glowed yellow, you liked butter. Do you like butter? Do you hate mother? Must you weave a flower crown of other to purge the bitterness of the mutter? Oh, mama, mother, no expensive bouquet delivered to your bedside will brighten with cheery yellow and ribbon these last hours we don't call your last. Our long-suffering mother in quarantine is not the first line, anything bright. Mother Corona 9. The flowers would be better if they were drugs, fucking up my dead pens, weed patches of pens, secretly haunted pens filled with ghost ink, whiling away impotently at home while the white supremacists infiltrate this city's uprising. Hollow throat pens, lost voice pens. Do I idle the entire revolution at a kitchen table, not bringing COVID to my dying mother? What I am afraid of now is not so different from what I was afraid of back when I believed I feared nothing. I really said, I'm afraid of nothing, but I do fear death documented in invisible ink. Does that seem like the amount of time I should take?
That was an incredible poem. Yeah, that is should we check in and see who's won our how has the giveaway been going?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Let's Bridget. Do we have any winners?
We do actually. Christine Mounts won the first book.
Cool. Yay, Christine.
Yay.
So how they're going to send you a direct message in chat with their address. That's how we'll do it. But you know them, like, and you can just get handed to them. That'd be different. And how about the second one?
Well, I mean, it would be the same person because it's girls. Unless we want to let people guess again.
What do you think, Paula?
I'll guess again.
Guess again? Okay, go ahead. Everybody guess again. I can't guess. It's too bad.
Well, we won't guess because we're in the same household, so it seems unfair that we might win both books, and so.
No. That's
Oh, no. We'll take one book and be happy.
Lauren can you guess, Lauren. That's only fair.
Okay, all right.
Cut you guys out because you're
All right.
You're two different people.
Are we?
The same bookshelf.
Oh well.
Yeah, I guess the number.
Okay.
So.
Did anybody win this time?
Well, it looks like Charlie M is our winner for the second book.
Cool. So you guys put your address, direct message to Paula, and then she can send them to you guys. Let's see. And I do have I am curious of
Thank you for wanting the books, by the way. Thank you very much.
Oh gosh, you're a fabulous writer, darling. It was but I'm curious of who's influenced you in most of your writing in life as a writer. Is there certain authors that
Yeah. we talked a little bit earlier when I was younger, it was really like David Bowie, Elvis Costello, and like E. E. Cummings. But I love um Ann Carson. I love Claudia Rankin. I love Charles Simic. I Lee Young Lee. I love Alice Notley. Boy, I love a lot of poets, a lot. I chose to go to Vermont College because I was a big fan of Ralph Angel, um, and who passed in 2020 as well.
Okay.
His work is stunning. Mary Ruffalo. Oh boy, I feel like, yeah, I'm just a big fan of everybody. Dang it.
Well, I feel like I got very good advice from a poet, a woman that wrote for a very long time. She's passed away now. She always was very, very, two things. She always started her day out with a haiku,
Writing or reading?
writing. She'd write her
Okay.
haiku. And if she was ever stuck, she said, that'll always get you out, she said. And then that is important to read other poets. That we learn so much from other poets. And she's the one that kind of, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crucial to be right, like in the conversation, in the community. I think, yeah, I think it's part of the reason I've liked to curate events, and I try to get to events, that I'm not, because we are rich, right? I mean, look, our community, we're
Yeah.
so rich, our literary community here, and I didn't even begin to mention like Twin Cities, Minnesota, Wisconsin poets.
Well, I mean, if I wouldn't have showed up at, what event was I at? It was over in Anoka.
Yeah, the blank verse.
Yeah, the blank verse. If I wouldn't have showed up, I wouldn't have heard you.
I'm so glad we met there. Yeah, very cool.
It's just those. Yeah, it's important.
Mhm.
We support each other and stuff. I want to say thank you for doing all you've done, because there's people, it takes certain people to keep doing it, but to volunteer themselves, and
Yeah,
and
thank
put
you
other
right back.
people in the spotlight, you know what I mean? Because yeah. But well, I think our interview is done.
Oh,
It's thank you so much for coming.
thank you. I have my phone in my hand because I'm taking a picture of your addresses in the chat, because I'm not like, oh, we're done.
She's picking up her phone.
Yeah. I can't. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for being here. And River, thank you for this like really generous thing you do for the community.
Oh, I very much enjoy it. I very much enjoy hearing all your stories and getting to know everybody and hearing, yeah, it's and there's nothing like this. And people like don't get to people don't get to be put on showcase like this, where you get every part of your life and everything you've done just gets put in one thing. And yeah.
This was definitely a unique interview for me.
That's yeah. Well, it will be a video in some days. We'll see how my life rolls. Could be tomorrow, it could be 3 days. But and then you'll be able to link it, it'll always be there. Great thing about that stuff. But
Right.
also, I should say for final, Up Close will be back in January. The first Thursday in January, we'll be back possibly with Gonna try to get an artist slash poet. Like somebody that's even like more of an artist than me and you, you know. I mean, yeah. But okay, I am hot, and it's been a long, long day on my end here. So now, why do we have 10 people now?
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Everybody, bye-bye.